I never thought the boy I carried for 9 months, the boy I fed, protected, and prayed for, would one day look me in the eyes and say, "Mom, you owe me." Not love, not forgiveness, not a hug. No. He wanted my money. And that was the moment I realized. I didn't lose a son. I raised a stranger. But what he didn't know was that I had a response waiting. A response he would remember for the rest of his life. My name is Evelyn Parker, and I'm 62 years old. If you met me today, calm voice, steady eyes, you'd never imagine the storm I survived. I raised my son Daniel alone. No husband, no family support, just me. And a world that didn't care if I lived or died. His father left when Daniel was 3. No goodbye, no explanation, just vanished. That night, I sat on the kitchen floor holding my sleeping boy and made a promise. I will give you everything I never had. And I meant it. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3. Factory shifts, cleaning shifts, night shift. My hands bled. My back burned. My eyes stung from sleepless nights. But every time Daniel smiled, it felt worth it. He was my purpose, my pride, my whole world. Little did I know, one day he would use that love against me. Because betrayal doesn't start loud. Starts quiet. So quiet, you don't notice the first crack. Daniel was smart, sharp, charming. Everyone adored him. Teachers, neighbors, relatives. People would say, "You're lucky. He's going to make you proud." And I believed them. When he turned 16, his tone changed. Small things at first. Rolling his eyes. Ignoring my calls. Slamming doors. I told myself, he's just a teenager. It'll pass. But it didn't. One night he said, "Why do we live like this? Other kids have real houses, real money. I'm tired of being poor." That word hit me like a punch. Because I wasn't lazy. I wasn't careless. I was breaking myself to feed him. But instead of gratitude, he looked at me like I was the problem. Still, I smiled, swallowed the pain, and said, "One day, things will get better." I didn't know. For him, better meant without me. At 19, Daniel came home with a backpack. "I'm moving out," he said flatly. No hug. No emotion. "Just leaving?" I asked. "Where will you go?" He shrugged. "I'll figure it out. I don't want to be stuck with your broke life." Broke life. He didn't say our life. He said your. I stood there speechless as he walked out the door. No goodbye. Just silence. After that, weeks passed. Months passed. Years. No calls. No messages. Not even on birthdays or holidays. Sometimes I'd stare at the door, imagining him walking back in saying, "Mom, I missed you." But imagination is cruel. Reality, crueler. I cried quietly. So quietly even the walls couldn't hear me. But life doesn't pause for heartbreak. So I worked, saved, survived, alone. What I didn't know was this. Daniel wasn't gone forever. He was just waiting for the right moment to return. And when he did, he wouldn't come for love. He'd come for something darker. Years later, something unexpected happened. The factory I'd worked at for 29 years shut down. We were all terrified. But then news broke. The company was being bought. Employees with long service would receive compensation, a retirement payout. When I checked the numbers, my hands shook. $180,000. More money than I'd ever seen in my life. I wasn't rich, but for the first time, could breathe. I bought a small home. Simple, quiet, peaceful. Garden, porch, place to grow old in. Thought, if my son ever returns, at least I have something to offer him. I didn't know that something would become the weapon he used against me. It was a cold evening. I was making tea when I heard it. Low, heavy, familiar. My heart raced. I opened the door. And there he was. Daniel. Older. Taller. Sharper jaw. Expensive clothes. He smiled like nothing had happened. Hey, Mom. My throat tightened. After 14 years. Those were his first words. Hey, Mom. I wanted to cry, hug him, scream, squy. But all I managed was, come in. He sat comfortably like he owned the place. Then he said, nice house. There was no warmth in his voice, just calculation. And in his eyes, not love, but hunger. That was the moment my instincts whispered. This wasn't a reunion. This was a transaction. He didn't ask about my health, my life, my years alone. Instead, he leaned forward and said, I'm starting a business. I need money. There it was. No hesitation. No shame. No apology. Just demand. I stayed quiet. He continued. I know you got a payout. People talk. You're sitting on cash and a house. So help me out. It's the least you can do. Least I can do. Least. I swallowed the ache and asked, how much? He smirked. All of it. My breath stopped. All of it. I repeated. He nodded casually. You don't need it. You're old. You'll be dead before you spend half of it. And then, the knife. Besides, you owe me. Owe him. For what? He stood up, pacing. You raised me poor. You gave me nothing. Now it's your turn to pay me back. My vision blurred. Not from anger, but from grief. Because I finally saw the truth. He didn't come back for me. He came back for my money. For days he pressured me. Bills, messages, visit. He acted entitled, like my savings belonged to him. Once he even shouted, if you loved me, you'd give it to me. And that's when something inside me snapped. Because love isn't measured in money. Love is measured in sacrifice. And I had sacrificed everything. But he didn't see that. He only saw dollar signs. Finally, he delivered an ultimatum. Give me the money. Or I'm done with you forever. Done with me. He had already been gone for 14 years. What more could he take? But then, he made one final move. The move that changed everything. He said, sign the house over to me. Not just the money. My home. My only security. My final shelter. He wanted it all. And in that moment, my heartbreak turned into clarity. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I simply said, come back tomorrow. He grinned. He thought he'd won. But he didn't know. He wasn't the only one who could think. That night, I sat alone in my quiet living room and made a decision. I will not let greed destroy me. And I will not reward betrayal. So I made a phone call to my lawyer and set a plan in motion. A plan Daniel would never see coming. The next day, he arrived with confidence dripping off him. So, you ready to sign everything over? I smiled gently. Yes. Sit down. His eyes sparkled with victory. I handed him a document. This, I said softly, is my decision. He grabbed it eagerly. He started reading. And slowly, his smile vanished. His jaw tightened. He looked up stunned. What is this? I took a deep breath. It's a legal agreement, I said calmly. A permanent restraining order. Silence. You are no longer allowed to contact me, visit me, or request money from me. He laughed nervously. You're joking. I shook my head. No. I'm choosing peace. He slammed the paper on the table. You can't do this. I'm your son. I met his eyes and whispered. I gave birth to a son. But you chose to become a stranger. He froze. I continued. Love is a gift, not a debt. Then I handed him a check. Not for $180,000. Not for half. But for $1. He stared at it shocked. This is nothing. He nodded. That's exactly how much your loyalty was worth. He stormed toward the door, shouting. You'll regret this. I stood tall. No. I already spent years regretting loving someone who didn't love me back. He stopped. But I wasn't finished. I said the final words slowly, so they would burn into his memory. You didn't come here for family. You came here for profit. But you forgot something. He turned. What? I stepped closer. You can abandon a mother. But you can't inherit what you never earned. Silence. Then he left. For real this time. No more calls. No more pressure. No more threats. Just absence. But this time, it didn't hurt. Felt like freedom. 3 months later, I rewrote my will. But not out of spite. Out of clarity. Every penny, every asset, every piece of my life, I donated it to an orphan scholarship fund for children who had no parents, children who knew the value of love, children who hungered for support, not money, and for the first time in decades, felt light, whole, because I finally understood. Family isn't defined by blood, it's defined by loyalty. People ask me, do you regret it? And I say, no, 'cause sometimes, losing a child isn't the tragedy. Raising a selfish one is. And sometimes, the most powerful thing a mother can say is, no, not out of hate, but out of self-respect. Because love without respect is just slavery. And I refused to die a slave. He came for my money. He left with nothing, not even a mother. And that was the lesson he'll never forget.